you just got to give it a second to breathe. Not every story needs to be incredibly fast paced and have like people falling in love on page 50 and doing everything by page 75. Hey guys, it's Sam and welcome back to my channel. I had an incredible reading month in September and I read some of my new all-time favorite books that I can't wait to chat through. I did like a mini wrap up on TikTok, but this is going to be like my yap sesh, especially with some of these books. I have a lot to say, so let's get straight into it. I'm also sitting on my sofa because I'm still figuring out a good filming spot in this room. I don't know where that is, but I'm comfy here. I've got a little coffee and my big ass water bottle. I'm gonna start off with the books I love most. Oh, I loved so many. Okay, in September I did read 9 books and I think that they were all a very good range in terms of like the genre. I mean, they were all fantasy, but like different subgenres of fantasy. Starting off with one of my favorite books of the month, it has to be Reverence by Rebecca Ross. This was gorgeous. This has one of the most beautiful love stories I've ever read. I keep saying that I want their love story tattooed on my very soul. If you didn't know, this book is the prequel to Divine Rivals. It's set a couple of 100 years before those books take place. You can read it as a standalone on its own, but I think for the full effect and to be able to enjoy all of the Easter eggs in this, it is better to have read Divine Rivals ahead of this one. Just do it. I mean, you won't regret it. It's like an excellent YA fantasy duology. It's about Iris and Roman. They are 2 journalists working at the same agency, and they're rivals at work, going for the same promotion, and they hate each other's guts. Well, that's a bit dramatic. They don't hate each other's guts, but there's a bit of a rivalry going on there. And then one day when Iris gets sent to the front lines of a magical war to report about it, Roman ends up following her there and the 2 slowly fall in love. One issue that a lot of readers had about Divine Rivals is, yes, the story was beautiful, yes, the characters were so raw and heartfelt and lovely, but the world that Rebecca Ross had built was fantasy, but like not heavy fantasy. So I'd say that there weren't a lot of details to what was going on. We knew that there was a war going on between gods. We knew that mortals were mixed up in it, but it was almost like, where did these gods come from? What are they doing? Why are they fighting? Because those books were so focused on Iris and Roman and their story, the background felt a bit blurry, and I think Rebecca Ross really took that on board, and then that's how she came up with exploring that more in Wild Reverence. So this is set a couple of 100 years before Divine Rivals, like I said, and it explores the world of the gods, when gods roamed, and going into how gods were created, what they did on Earth, what were their stories. And this follows a main character called Matilda. She is half underling, half skyward, so those are the 2 different groups of gods. And when she was born, her gift that she was given is that she was going to be a messenger. So it's just so beautiful when you think about it. Not that Rebecca Ross is a mastermind or anything, but I loved how she uses like the medium of words and transporting news in different ways in her 2 series. So in Divine Rivals we're seeing, you know, stories carried through the newspapers, whereas this, like, Matilda is that embodiment of basically a newspaper, because she's having to cross into different realms to send messages basically between the gods. How that story links in with Vincent is that Vincent is a mortal who has always dreamt of Matilda in his dreams, and he only knows her as this gorgeous girl who is such a relief from his day-to-day life. One day when he writes to her asking for help, and she actually misses that message completely, the 2 become estranged, and she doesn't actually see him again until 7 years later, when he's given up all hope that he'll ever see her again. He's almost upset that she abandoned him on the one darkest night of his life. Oh my god, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. But when she finds out that she missed this message so many years later, she goes to the mortal realm to try and make it up to him. But to help him in the war that he's wrapped up in and is brewing, she decides to help him him by marrying him to get people off his back, because if he's married to a goddess, they're more likely to, you know, back away a little bit and give him some space. And that's exactly what they do. They have a marriage of convenience. There's so many good moments early into this where he's like, you can't speak like that to my wife. My wife can have anything she wants. And those are like my favorite moments ever. I will say with this book, you've got to give it a little bit of time. Some people have said, oh my god, it's so slow, it's so slow, it's so slow. But that's because we're meeting Matilda at the very beginning when she's born, basically, and then we're following her through her childhood, seeing her relationship in the dreams with Vincent. And then, you know, I think it was like 100 or 150, 200 pages maybe before they're actually adults and they're building a relationship with who they are now and not who they were as children. So you just got to give it a second to breathe, okay? Not every story needs to be incredibly fast paced and move at the speed of lightning and have like people falling in love on page 50 and doing everything by page 75. So just go into that knowing that this is more of a slow burn. Like, you can really fall into Rebecca Ross's writing. Like, it just feels so like you're being enveloped in a hug. I can't even describe it. There's some super gorgeous descriptions in here that just had like me picturing the scenes so vividly, but also with almost like these twinkling lights around everything, because her choice of words and the way she uses language in such like a Rebecca Ross way manages to evoke so much emotion. Even though it's not like a super like heavy lyrical writer, she really gets straight to the point, and that's one thing that I think I just love so much about her, and it carries through in all of her work. I think Wild Reverence is up there for me with the elements of cadence duology, which if you haven't read, this is the season for it. I do love Divine Rivals as well, but I think this one and Elements of Cadence has a bit more world building to it to like be a good balance for me of fantasy and romance, where to me when I think of Divine Rivals I really just think of Iris and Roman, which is still amazing. Like, I love them, but I just love these books in a different way. I'm doing this in a funny order, but before I read Wild Reverence I did actually read Ruthless Vows. So I read Divine Rivals in 2023 and loved it. My favorite book of 2023. And then this book came out in January 2024 and I never picked it up. I got a copy I think on release day, and then it just sat on my shelf this whole time. I think I have a bit of sequel anxiety. I've spoken about this a little bit on my TikTok and I think in some other videos, just that sometimes I love a book so much that when the sequel comes out, if I'm not in the right mood for it, I just kind of like breeze past it. I don't know why I'm like that. So I'm trying to finish more of my sequels now after reading this. This was such an excellent follow-up to the first book, where I think I loved this even more than the first book, or on par, which I think is really, really difficult when the bar was so high from the first. After finishing this, I was like, god damn, I really need to get to more of my sequels. So I have a video on TikTok where I go through like 7 sequels that I need to read by the end of the year or else. So you might see some of those books come up in the next few months up to December. But yeah, I love this. I think if you haven't read the Letters of Enchantment duology, it's such a treat. It's a really, really, really amazing YA fantasy, and it's like whimsy and it's magic. It's a really good introduction to Rebecca Ross's writing. And then if you want more from the world building, like I said, you can then read Wild Reverence and then go on to like Elements of Cadence, which is one of my favorite duologies of all time. So yeah, both of these 5-star. I should not have ever doubted it. Moving on to my next 5-star read. Well, I gave this 4.5, but I'm rounding up to 5. It is Diabound by Sable Sorensen. I have seen everyone talk about this book since it came out, and I do actually own the indie edition. So I bought this, I think, before it got announced that it was picked up by Wayward Publishing, and I just never got around to reading it. I'm so bad for that. See, I just like buy books, I'm super excited about them, and then I don't get around to them. So I am trying to be better at that. But you guys weren't lying. This book is really, really good. I will say that maybe the first 25% of this, it really, really felt like Fourth Wing. I was like, this is just giving me deja vu. I feel like I've read this before. Because our main character enters into like the army and she has to pass these trials where she has to survive but also bond with a direwolf. And the bond with the direwolf thing is basically like what Violet had with her dragon, so a mental link. She gets like some of their magic. It's like a way that they can communicate with each other, and it's like a very special bond. God damn it, I was hooked. I was hooked. It was so addictive, I couldn't put it down. I was literally thinking about it all the time once I put it down, which is a good sign for me that like I really love a book, because I'm itching to read it, even though like I'm so busy or I'm at work and all I can do is think about it. The romance was so interesting because this book starts off with our main character already in a relationship with this dude called Lee. Yeah, his name's Lee. My friend Becca pointed out this is just such a weird name for a man to have in a fantasy book. Like I can't explain it, but Lee is just so random. She's already in a relationship with this dude called Lee, so from the very early get-go we get like some spicy scenes, but they're very natural, so they're not shoehorned in, because you know, like the issue with some books is like the romance happens too soon, you know, start doing everything and you're like, whoa, you just met. Whereas I think this is a really good lesson in that you can bring a character's previous relationships to the start of a book, but it just has to make sense. And I think this one made perfect sense, and their dynamic made sense. It also played a bigger role as you got through the book. There's also a second love interest that we meet later, and he's very much like brooding and the darker romance choice. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I'm absolutely obsessed with him. Stark. I need Fury Bound, and I looked up the other day and it doesn't come out till May 2026, which is so far away when I need it right now. So yeah, you guys didn't lie. I feel like this was a 4.5, but I rounded it up to a 5 just because I enjoyed it so much. I think if you're looking for a fantasy romance that's super addictive, kind of like Quicksilver vibes, Heavenly Body vibes, if you love Silver Elite by Danny Francis, all of that like addictive quality in the writing with a good amount of action, a good amount of fantasy, a good amount of romance and spice, this is it. Like, no one was lying when they recommended me this book, which is so annoying, because why do I not listen to my friends more often? I should just be like, yeah, I trust you, let me read it. But instead I'm like, oh, my TBR is 500 books long, so let me read those. But actually, this is what I'm going to try and start doing. If my friend recommends me a book, I'm just going to bump out the TBR. I'll be like, fine, I'll read it next week. I want to be that friend. Because when people do that with my recommendations, like if I tell my friend, oh, like, Jess, you're gonna love this book, and then she reads it and she comes back and she's like, oh my god, you were right, like I loved it. It's such a nice feeling. So I want to be that friend that reads all of your recommendations. Like, I trust you, so I should trust your book recs. Excellent. Another 5-star read I actually did on audiobook, and it was Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man by Jessie Sutanto, and this is book 2 to Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. How much can I tell you? I love these books. They are pure joy to me. It's a cozy fantasy series following an older Asian woman who owns a tea shop, and one day she comes into work and there's a dead body on the ground and she's like, really? Calls the police. Police are useless, so she's like, you know what, I'm gonna solve this murder myself. So then she goes out and she finds all of the potential suspects, invites them round for dinner, and then accuses them of being the murderer, and she accidentally through that makes a really beautiful found family. And I was wondering how the second book would top the first book, because it just seemed like such a good recipe that couldn't be replicated. But Jessie Sutanto did such an amazing job to make this book feel like a good continuation and very natural, but also bring something fresh. So at the start of the second book, like, Vera has a taste now for solving crime, so she's like, any murder cases for me please? And it just felt really natural the way everything unfolded, and I really liked all of the different suspects this time round, and how she even still managed to create a found family with these new set of characters while having the old ones around too was just so special. We could go on about these books forever, but a few things that I'll say I really loved is, one, I love that Vera is an older character and she learns so much from having these younger people in her life, like of all different ages, all different backgrounds, and they learn a lot from her too. And to see all of these characters create such a sense of community and support is so special, and something I really want. Like, maybe I'll grow up to be Vera Wong. Another thing that I love is, if you want to experience these books in like a really fun way, then listen to the audiobooks, because the audiobooks are probably some of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to in my life. The narrator is incredible, the storytelling was excellent, it just is so immersive and so funny, and I don't think you'll be able to find anything else like it, because I'm still looking for a good follow-up to the series. So please pick this up. I adore it. I think there is going to be book 3 because I like messaged Jessie to Tando like a crazy person, and I was like, hello, will there be more? And she was like, yes, another one is coming in 2027, so you've got time to pick these ones up. There's also going to be a TV adaptation, which I think is going to be incredible, and if a casting director is around, I'm willing to play an extra. The next book is All This Twisted Glory by Tahereh Mafi. This is book 3 in this Woven Kingdom, and I think this might be my favourite one yet. I'd say the second book, nothing really happened, and nothing's really happening in this book either, but I was just so in love with Cyrus and the amount of yearning that that man had for our female main character. I couldn't get enough. The amount of quotable things that he says in this is insane. I did a whole post about Cyrus and all of his very like simpy quotes. I think he'll always be on my mind. I feel like after reading this one, I finally am feeling very settled with the setup of the series, and I now have that connection to the characters where they're all hanging out, and I'm just like, this is the best time ever. Kind of like in her Chatty series when she has these scenes of all her characters like Kenji and Juliet and Warner, and like everyone's bantering together and like you're just like smiling along with the characters. That's how I'm now feeling when all of these characters are together. Like the amount of chaos of Kamran, Huda, Cyrus, Eliza, Hassan all together, I can't get enough. And I basically read this so that I could read every Spiral of Fate as soon as it came out, which I did manage to do. So every Spiral of Fate will be in my next October wrap up. I really recommend the series. It has those touches of Persian mythology, and I'm really loving like our main character's journey to taking back her kingdom, as she is the long lost Jinn heir, and she's in a really interesting predicament at the moment where she basically has to decide who to marry, and it's drama filled. If you're going to go into the series though, just be aware that there isn't a lot that happens. In fact, you'll think back to the previous books and go, huh? How far have we actually come from A to B? But you're just reading it because it's a good time, and that's definitely how I feel. So I think I'm giving this one a 4-star. Another 4-star read for me was Silvercloak by L.K. Stephen. This one has a magical detective agency, kind of like a mafia vibe going on as well, where our main character goes undercover in order to try and find out who in that gang killed her parent. There's also a magic system fueled by pleasure and pain, which I was really interested to see how it would play out in the story. And I love that that magic system fits so well in the society. For instance, like everyone's down to do everything with anyone. It's also very queer normative. It was just like a super unique read. I will say that I really liked the first 100 pages, and then there was a lull in the middle where the mystery kind of lost me. It was a bit too slow, and the character, because she's undercover, she has to go back and forth with like dealing with her emotions and like who she can trust. I think that part like was losing me in the middle, but by the end, oh my god, the ending like picked up like crazy and everything happened all at once. There were so many reveals. The very last chapter had me reeling because that sets everything up for book 2 in a very crazy way. I've seen some people say, oh, this book, it has wands, it's not unique. I mean, you know, the book by that turf is not the only series that can have magic with wands, and that's all I'm gonna say. But I think if you're someone that loves epic fantasy, but done in a way where there's lots of drama, there's lots of action, there's a mafia vibe, and a will they, won't they romance, I think this is perfect. I think because of the slow pace in the middle, it kind of lost me for a bit, but honestly, I wish I just powered through and read this all in one like sitting, because I think I would have enjoyed it more, because I took a break in the middle and then I came back to it like, oh, let me get to the end. But I really enjoyed it. Solid 4-star read. I will be reading book 2. In fact, I would really like to re-experience this maybe on audio and just see if I like it more when I like consume the story in a different way. Look at them. Oh my, I almost forgot, this was one of my favorite characters. I love an animal companion. Oh, I love this art so much. This is the fairyloot edition and I do not regret getting it. Another 4-star read for me was On Thin Ice by Olivia Bell. This one is an ice skating sports romance that is basically dancing on ice. If you don't know what dancing on ice is, it's an ice skating competition where they dance every week and they get scored. I don't know if they have it outside the UK, but like I grew up watching Dancing on Ice, so this book was perfect to like kind of film my dancing on ice romance dream. Imagine the male main character goes onto the show and falls in love each week with his co-star while learning how to ice skate in front of millions of people watching on TV. Like, I adored this. It also had a people pleaser type of main character, which I do always enjoy reading about them, because I think a lot of people can relate to the qualities that this main character has, like always thinking and tailoring your responses based off what other people want to hear and acting in a way that you think would be kind of not pleasing but like palatable to other people. And I liked the way that the male main character in this really pushed her to recognize those behaviors and kind of like stop doing them and start just living more authentically. So I do always like stories like this. Another one that's very similar to this is Uncharmed by Lucy Jane Wood, which I read recently as well, and that one had a people-pleasing kind of main character. He's very grumpy, she's very sunshine. I felt like at points in this I really wanted them to have more chemistry before they got together, but overall I enjoyed it. I think this is a really solid romance and like a very quick fun read. So if you're in the market for a fun ice skating romance, then this is a perfect one to go for. This one I gave 3.75. This is The Wicked Lies of Habern Fair, and I just think this is a very solid YA fantasy. When I think back to it, nothing really sticks out to me apart from the fact that if you love The Cruel Prince, you're going to enjoy this. It's a very short read, it's less than 300 pages, but the author does a really good job at creating a very immersive world, and it's very informed by Welsh mythology, which I enjoyed because I have not read many books by Welsh authors. Another part that I really liked about this that stood out to me is that it pulled from actual parts of history, like how the English tried to erase Welsh culture and erase the Welsh people and kind of like make them English in every way possible, which I don't think I knew a lot about. So reading this was like quite eye-opening for me. All of the chapter headings as well are Welsh, and then they say the English translation underneath. There's a lot of Welsh words, and if you listen to the audiobook, it is read out by a Welsh person, so you can hear how everything sounds. And I haven't listened to a lot of Welsh, but it was just really intriguing to like read this book at the same time, hear how the word was said and go, yep, no, I never would have said that correctly, so I'm glad I'm listening to this. But in this one, our main character ventures into the Fey lands to try and save her sister, and while she's there she makes a very dangerous bargain with a Fey prince who she can't trust. And I think that's just like a very core setup in a YA fantasy romance. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. It was really sweet. It was like, I can't say a bad word about it. I just had a great time. And last but not least is my least favorite book of the month, which was Bitten by Jordan Stephanie Gray. I'm so upset about this because I was predicting this one would be a 5-star for me. It's actually painful for me to talk about this because all of my friends I think have at least rated this 4 stars, and I feel like I'm in the hater club all on my own, and I don't like being the only hater in the club. So this book starts off with our main character Vanessa. She goes to a party with her friend, and her friend gets bitten by a wolf and is killed. Vanessa gets bitten by a wolf and then starts turning into a werewolf. So the people that bit her basically take her back to the werewolf courts, and they're like, ta-da, werewolf courts, and she's like, huh, werewolf courts? And then she meets the queen, and the queen's like, you're kind of special, so you need to stay here and you need to go to werewolf school. And so she starts going to werewolf school, and werewolf school is like super mean and high school vibes, and like it just felt like watching Twilight in that scene where like Bella walks in and to the canteen and everyone's like looking at her. It felt like that. And then obviously she has chemistry with the like wolf prince who's betrothed to someone else. Drama. And she also has some interesting chemistry with his cousin. I think that's the groundwork that you need to know going into this one. What I will say is I love the prologue, I love the setup. I also even loved, like, I'd say the first 50 to 7500 pages. I was like, oh my god, this is so reminiscent of like the paranormal romance books I read in 2012, 2013. And it's cliche and it's a bit cringe, but it also fills my soul a little bit. But I think the issue was the writing at times just, no. There was like too much in her head and not enough doing. Not enough showing rather than telling. And then another pain point for me is that there's this chemistry that's told to me they have, but I don't feel like they have any chemistry at all. I mean, yeah, apparently she has like hot chemistry with St. Clair, and then she has chemistry with Calix, and I'm like, I'm not feeling this on the page, so I'm not rooting for this. Like, you've just met, like, I don't believe that he's into you because you don't know anything about each other. So that was kind of annoying. Another weird thing about this book is that it's young adult, but the main character's 17, and there are certain scenes where it is kind of like moving to the spicier side, and I'm like, I would just be way more comfortable if this was like they were just aged up. It also didn't make sense to the story that they were only 17. It just felt way too young for the story that this was trying to tell. I think they should have at least been like 21. And I don't know if that's a small gripe of this book or a bigger gripe, but I just think it didn't make sense. Like, I also thought Bitten was gonna be like new adult slash adult, so, you know, older, mid-20s characters. I think that would just make so much more sense. I didn't like the scenes where she was going to high school. What? And the high school and the wolf courts were full of mean girls. Like, I just wasn't really like into that, and I don't know if that's because I'm too old for this book. Like, I'm 26, but like, am I too old for this? I didn't think I was too old to enjoy this. I'm just really sad because this felt like it could be the book for me, and it just fell so short. I will read book 2 because I think that where it leaves off is interesting. I did like the twist at the end, but this was not what I thought it was gonna be. I would also be willing to maybe reread some bits. No, I shouldn't have to reread any bits. I should just know I like it or not from the first read. I think it's so annoying to see everyone love a book and then be the only hater. It makes me really question myself of like, did I read this right? Were my eyes open when I was reading this? Reading the stuff on the back, deliciously dark and sexy, luminous and exhilarating, alluring as it is cunning. Jordan Gray is one to watch. Like, I will read more from this author because I think that she has some really good ideas, but this one was not as good as I thought it'd be. So that's another thing I forgot to mention, is that I actually did enjoy the wolf court setup. So how, you know, the hierarchy works in the wolf courts, but also like the international courts. So there wasn't just one, you know, in America, there's one in Asia, and that was really interesting to learn about. Also the rules that they have on their citizens to be like, you're not allowed to bite people, like that, all of that was really interesting to me. I think there was too much placed on the murder mystery that wasn't fast paced enough to keep me hooked, and then on top of that, like the romantic chemistry just being like rubbish was another thing that had me disengaging. So I gave this 2 stars. So that's everything I read in September. Let me know what you guys have been reading recently. What have you been loving? I will be back very soon with another video. I will be trying to do a reading vlog. Someone requested a video vlog of Air of Illusion by Madeline Taylor and Paladin's Grace, but I might just do like a general read with me over the week, and that will be like my first vlog that I ever try to film. So, but other than that, let me know what you guys want to see, and I hope you enjoyed this video. In the meantime, you can catch me on Instagram, TikTok, Goodreads, and I will see you very soon.